Good evening and welcome to Human Performance Live, 11/11/25, Veterans Day. We have an amazing guest tonight. You guys will hopefully enjoy what he's got to say and some of the things that he's a part of. His name's Chris Bingham. How you doing tonight, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for coming on. So I'm going to run down real quick a little bit of who you are and what you are, and then obviously I would like you to expand a little bit more on what you do and how you are affected by testosterone use and peptide use and kind of your experience. So
Yeah.
his name's Chris Bingham. He's got over two decades in dedicated law enforcement. Graduate of Northwestern University School of Police Staff and Command. Chris has spent his entire career building and leading K9 programs. He's also an advocate advocates the well-being and legacy of working dogs nationwide. Known best for his bond with his retired partner, K9 Tambo. That's kind of an interesting story too. I like that one. He raises awareness for K9 organizations like K9 Heroes. K9 Heroes?
Project K9
Project K9 Heroes. And this supports retired canines with medical care and post-service needs because, like we were talking offline, can get rather expensive. And then outside of his service to his community, Chris is passionate about fitness and mentorship. He also uses his platforms to inspire others. His message of perseverance, fatherhood, and defying the odds. Defying the odds is something that most of our guys can understand. And because a lot of them have been hurt. And, between military and law enforcement and just sleep and not sleeping and crazy schedules. And so a lot of our guys understand the word perseverance, and most of us understand fatherhood too. So defying the odds, let's talk about that. What does that mean to you?
Man, well, I think, especially in the field of law enforcement and in life, being resilient is another word that I love to use, and that's key, right? You're gonna have ups and downs in everything you do in life, and it's a matter of just how you take it and getting back up and dusting yourself off and moving forward. And to be successful, you got to block out the words of others and be resilient. You got to be able to bounce back, and then defying the odds, man. It's kind of like when you got your back against the wall and you got people telling you probabilities of things that what you are, what you aren't, or if you have some type of illness, trying to give you some type of expiration date. And I'm a firm believer that the mind, body, and spirit is what keeps us going. So that's what, to me, defying the odds is kind of all about.
Awesome. So what is your experience in the world of testosterone and hormones? When did you first realize that you needed to look into it? Stuff like that.
Yeah, when I hit 40, man, it was kind of like, probably what most guys go through. You just think that's what life is. All of a sudden you're going to the gym, but the motivation to go in the gym isn't really there anymore. You're having that daytime sleepiness, the low libido, and you're just you just feel like a slug. I mean, it's just like you have no motivation. It's harder to keep the weight off. And I was living in Hawaii at the time, and I remember a buddy of mine that had worked for the sheriff department out there, got himself back into really good shape. And I was asking him what his secret was, and he kind of told me about TRT. And that's the first time I had heard about it, and I kind of did my research, and then started about 8 years ago. So I've been going strong on it now for about 8 years, and it's really kind of changed my life, not only from a physical aspect, but also having getting that motivation, that edge back, and that mental clarity that I think a lot of guys, when they hit their late 30s or 40s, they lose. And I think they just think, well, this is the way it is, and this is the way it's going to be going forward. But, you have to have that testosterone, as a man, to kind of move forward and be able to function. And it's critical. So for me, it was a lifesaver. It was a game changer.
And it's funny that you say that. It's totally what people think, this is just a part of getting older, or I'm the old guy on the team. So, you got to work twice as hard to try to keep up with the younger guys. But it's been so stigmatized, hormone therapy, that, guys, I still have guys, I'm sure we'll get one tonight that will say something in the chat about, it gives you prostate cancer. It gives you can have a heart attack. You can have except for the fact that Harvard did a 5-year study and they proved that to be completely wrong. And you can go and look the study up. It was 2024 April from Harvard Medical School. And they 100% said there's no correlation or link to those items from testosterone therapy. Now, if you're overdoing it, like anything else, if you're overdoing it, yes, bad things can happen.
Yeah.
You have people that are, pushing their levels past super physiological, which, 1,000, 1,200 is probably about the max you want to go. And depending on your body, obviously, but if you're going past that, now you have a problem, because now you're pushing your body further than what it can handle. So yes, you have massive testicular shrinkage. You have, higher chances of clotting and all these other things. But if you're using it in a therapeutic dose, as the doctor recommends, there is nothing wrong with it. Europe's been doing it for 50 years. No problem.
And I think, and that's the key, is following, going to a reputable doctor, through these clinics, and following the protocol. And, the thing that they always talk about, the blood clots, right? But if you're following the protocol and you're donating blood, as recommended when you need to, so your hematocrit isn't getting high. I mean, that's the key. It's the people that, like you said, that abuse it, or not following the therapeutic dose, they aren't donating. That's where you run into problems. And that's where it gets a bad rap a lot of times, because of the people that aren't following the protocol. If you follow the protocol, and, it takes some time to kind of dial in and find out, your numbers. I usually cruise at like 1,100. And that's perfect for me. And I don't use AI. I mean, I remember the first clinic I went to, they kind of give you that starter kit, and they want to give you the, an anastrozole. And, for me, it crashed my estrogen, and I went through that whole experience, and there's nothing worse. They talk about, having high estrogen, but crashing your estrogen I think is worse. And so for me, I kind of know when I need to take an AI and when I don't.
Yeah. So, and that, I try to tell guys all the time, I'm like, listen, you'll know. And even our doc says, if you don't necessarily want to take an anastrozole, that we'll send you 4 pills or whatever it is. And if you have any tenderness in your chest or, stuff like that, go ahead and take one. Because it's not going to be something that's going to happen overnight. You can curb things a little bit, but we had a guy that signed up probably 6 months ago now, and he was with another clinic. They got his testosterone level up to like 1,200, and he was like, I feel okay, but I'm losing hair by the handfuls in the shower. He was 32.
Wow.
They checked his estrogen or his estradiol, and it was unnotable. So it was so low that it couldn't even register. So yeah, we pay very close attention to that stuff.
Yeah, and the higher your testosterone is going to be, your estrogen is going to be dialed up a little bit. But I mean, I think knowing the symptoms of when you need to kind of take one, like you said, the sensitivity or to anything, or that's going to be key, is just knowing your body and knowing when you may need to take one. But I don't take it unless I need to, because like I said, crashing your E is terrible. It's absolutely
I take
terrible.
I take half a milligram a week, and I generally don't do it every week because I'm really bad about it. But uh, if I take one every 2 weeks or one every 3 weeks, I'm fine. My estrogen is naturally a little bit higher because my testosterone levels are so much higher than the average person. At 25, my levels were 1200. So, I mean, according to the doctors, that's high or too high. So, yeah, dialing these things in. And what experience, or if any, do you have with rutatrutide? Retatrutide.
I have no experience with that.
That's
So
an interesting peptide. You should look into that one. There's a lot of really
okay.
interesting peptides that are out there. They've been out there forever, but they're now showing that you can quote unquote stack them together, and they work synergistically with other peptides to aid in certain things. But
Now I have taken the CJC 1295 with the ipamorelin.
yep,
That's been beneficial. The BPC 157, I've seen a lot of benefits from that as well. So the like you said, the peptide world's kind of expanding, and there's a lot of stuff out there that you can kind of stack that with the testosterone to kind of maximize everything.
yeah, absolutely. So do you take peptides, and if you do, what peptides are you taking, and how have they benefited you?
Well, I'm getting ready to actually start the IGF-1. That's getting ready to get sent out to me, so that'll be the first time trying that. But I have taken the CJC 1295 with ipamorelin. I've had good results with that, with better sleep, muscle growth, and just feeling a lot better. So I think it's just kind of finding whatever your goals are, and then trying to figure out what kind of best suits you, and doing your research through everything, and make sure, like you said, you're going through these reputable clinics and doctors to get all this stuff.
So you're taking IGF-1? Do you say?
I'm getting ready to. So I just started. Just actually ordered it. It should be showing up within the next week. So
Oh, beautiful. What
yeah.
do you know which one you're taking by chance?
I don't. I just it's through Life Med Institute over here in Maryland. So I just had my follow up with the doctor, and we were kind of discussing it, and that's one of the peptides that they have there. So
Okay. Wyatt, that was something I was actually wanting to get your opinion on. I was hearing a lot of good things about retatrutide. So I'm not too familiar with the PP332. Haven't really read up on it. Retatrutide, I've done a bunch of research on. Just the way it interacts with your body helps. It helps a bunch of stuff. Helps with healing. It helps with shoot, I can't remember. I've done a bunch of research, but I've also been working on another. We're doing a series where Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we're going to drop a video of a peptide, but the 3 peptides for the week, or the 2 peptides for the week, will all be synergistically working together. So I've been working on doing all those. So trying to remember all of everything that I've been researching. And then the question, Wyatt, give me a call tomorrow. I will read you my my script that I have for the show on retatrutide, and I will look up PP332. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting that have you seen what the FDA just did?
No.
So today, the FDA is finally taking the black labels off of female hormone therapy and stuff, because if you read on the box, it was like you're going to get breast cancer and your uterus is going to fall out and you're going to die, like all this horrible shit. So a lot of women were not getting on hormone therapy, and there's plenty of studies showing that women getting on hormone therapy before menopause actually aids menopause so that they don't, try to tear themselves up from the inside out. It also helps cognitively, and it also helps with Alzheimer's, however you say it. So there's a bunch of studies, but the study that they used to put all that information on there was flawed horribly. Like, it had zero examples. There wasn't one person that they could say this person died because of hormone therapy. So they just, that's just how the medical machine works. They can say whatever they want, and enough money, they can back it up. So, and then they leak the story to the press, and the press says, "Oh yeah, this is for real," So it's pretty annoying.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
So I want to know about this foundation, the organization for canines.
Project K9 Hero. So Project K9 Hero is a national nonprofit. And so what a lot of people don't know is that when these police and military working dogs retire, the agency turns over liability to the handlers, and most of the handlers, adopt those dogs, from the agencies and departments after they retire. But once they do, there's no care set up for these dogs, kind of like we have pensions and, healthcare set up. The dogs don't. And if you've heard me talk in other interviews, I kind of correlate these dogs to like professional athletes, right? They're these prime species and in the peak of their career, kind of like NFL players, and they put a lot of wear and tear on their body, when they're working. But when they retire, that's when the body really starts to break down and they need that health care. And the vet care gets exuberant. And what I've always said is I don't think that, any handler should ever have to make a decision on their dog that serve the country and communities based on finances. And unfortunately, that's what happens a lot. So what Project K9 Hero does is when, these dogs retire, and the ones that have significant health issues, they bring them into the program, and they fund their medical care for life. From the minute you get into that program, they take care of everything. For example, Tambo, my current dog that's retired, K9 Tambo, he retired in 2022, tore a ligament. So Jason Johnson is the founder of Project K9 Hero. We had met a couple years earlier at a conference. He got him right in the program, and funded his care. And then probably about 3 months later, Tambo had a double ACL tear, and then they paid for that as well. And that that ran about $14,000 for all that care. And for a lot of people, they don't have that kind of money to fund these surgeries, and they have to make some tough decisions, whether they have to give the dog up to somebody that can, or you don't want to let the dog suffer. So that's where kind of Project K9 Hero comes in, and they've been a lifeline for me, even now up to Tambo's now battling cancer, and they've funded all of his chemotherapy. And I think, Jason and I were talking, a couple of weeks ago, and they've now funded about $32,000 in Tambo's care since he's got into the program.
Wow. It's an awesome organization. Where can people find that organization?
So you can find them on all social media platforms under Project K9 Hero. And then if you go to their website at projectk9hero.org, you can kind of go on there, and they've got all the stories of different dogs in the program. So you have dogs like Tambo that are suffering from an aggressive cancer. You have dogs that have been shot in the line of duty, stabbed, hitting their cruiser. And each time Project K9 Hero has kind of stepped in and kind of saved their life. And the other great thing that they do, man, is the dogs that, have been overseas or have been in a significant, incident that are suffering from PTSD and aren't adoptable. Jason has a sanctuary out in Tennessee where he takes those dogs in and rehabilitates them and then gets them adopted back out. So he's still giving them a second chance. And then what I always tell people, if they want to donate, and with some of these organizations, these big organizations you donate money to, and you don't know where your money's going, I'm proof. And and Tambo's proof that that money goes directly to these dogs' care, and that they desperately need.
That's awesome, because I know, I can't remember his last name. Mike from Mike Drop. He was a SEAL dog handler, and now he
Mike
does the same
Ritland.
thing. Mike Ritland, yeah, for war dogs. So that's amazing that there's, the other side of that for canines that are, police dogs and stuff like that. So you just said something that made it very interesting to me. That was very interesting to me. You shouldn't have to pick your dog or finances. Do you know how many times I think to tell people that in a day when I talk to them on the phone, but I don't, because it's the truth, right? Just like your dog who served your country, served your community, served whatever, our guys and our gals have too. But the system is so messed up that, like for instance, my wife went to the doctor, went to her regular doctor, and told her, "Hey, I'm tired, I'm fatigued, change your diet, da 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 da." So we got her blood work done. And I've been telling her for 3 years, like, your hormones are jacked up. Let's get them looked at. Well, the doctor told her she's good. The doctor. So finally I was like, I'm running the labs. We're going to check it. So we ran our lab ran the labs. Our doc reviewed the labs, and everything that I had been telling her for 3 years came true, because the doctors kept saying that she was okay and everything was normal. She assumed everything was normal when it wasn't. So we were able to get her on the therapy, and she's starting to feel much better. But how sad is that not only dogs but humans have to choose whether they want to be healthy or they want to eat dinner tonight. That's and one of the best country in the world. Why are we doing that? So that's kind of our mission.
It really boggles my mind. And I'll even go back to, when, backtracking with Tambo, he had a mass rupture on his spleen, and that's how we found out he had cancer. But, I got him over to the emergency vet, and they came in and were like, "Hey, we got to do emergency surgery, but hey, by the way, this is going to cost anywhere from, $7,000 to $9,000. And I guess they were expecting me just to say, "Hey," which a lot of people would, because they may not have that money, but just come back and say, "Hey, no, I don't have it. We're going to have to, put them down." And, luckily I had the backing of Project K9 Heroes. So, when they came out with the cost, I was just like, whatever, do it. And that was a lifesaver for me. I mean, I would have had the money, but it would have significantly hit my bank account. And and some people don't have that, and then they have to make a decision on, like you said, these dogs that have served the country, based on that. But and I think they were expecting me to say I don't have it, which I think a majority of the people that come in there don't, and and have to make a decision from there.
Yeah. Well, that's sad, even for our dogs and our working dogs, but also human beings too. We have people that could probably get off of a ton of these SSRIs. They could get off these depression medications. They can get off these sleep medications. They could get off all this stuff if they'd get their hormones right and get moving. That's the problem, is people just don't want to do that stuff. They want the easy fix. Like, one thing I can't stand is Ozempics, and I had a really bad taste in my mouth about GLP-1s in general because of that. Did some more research thanks to Andy Stump from the Clear Hot podcast. I met with him at the coffee shop in Kalispell, Montana, and we got to talking about GLP-1s, and his sister does, she's a practitioner in California, and she's really big into the GLP-1 space for like cognitive issues and stuff like that. And he kind of taught me, or told me, that it's not the GLP-1 I don't like. It's the dosages that most doctors are giving people that I don't like, because it's way too much. But GLP-1s have amazing, amazing health benefits in small doses, like we were talking about before. You can't just push everything to the limit and expect everything to work fine.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you gotta do it within those limits and figure out what that is. And it's the people that go overboard with it that start running into issues with everything.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happens with TRT.
Have you had experience with people that took it too far?
No, I mean, most of a lot of the guys I work with have all are, now, the ones that are in their 30s and 40s are, have all discovered TRT, and it's been a game changer. And I think especially in law enforcement, just staying up with, keeping that edge and that mental clarity, and staying in shape. And and let's be honest, it gets harder as you get older. And I think my testosterone levels, when I finally checked them and got on TRT, were under 200. And, I desperately needed it. And like I said, for a while, I just kind of, well, this is how life's going to be, going forward. And it was a game changer. And I see it now with the guys that I work with that are, all getting on TRT, and how it's changing them too. And just not only physically, but just, getting that mental clarity back and helping with depression. Right. And stuff they're dealing with in their life. They have more confidence, they're more engaged with their family. It's not just the physical benefits, but it's the mental benefits that, I think people don't talk about enough as well either.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. Because one of your messages is fatherhood. We talked about the defying the odds and the perseverance. Fatherhood, that's a big thing for me. I've got two boys under the age of 7. I have an older daughter and an older son, both in their 20s, almost 30s. So how would you look at if you had a guy that came to you and said, "Hey man, I'm just exhausted all the time. I don't want to play with my kid. I don't want to do this. I just don't have time. Snap at my kid all the time." How would you approach that to him to let him know, "Hey man, might need to go get your hormones checked out. Go to Human Performance TRT."
Yeah, and I mean, the first thing I tell them too, and I try to tell people, because I work with I try to mentor a lot of people, but and that's one of the things, just dealing with loss in my life. And now, with Tambo, who was given, initially 2 weeks to live, is living more in the present, right? And that time, snapping at your kids, or they want to play with you and you're just not engaging with them, you can never get that time back. And and getting people to realize that. And then what I do is I talk to them about my story and the benefits that I've seen, and how it's helped me in my life, not only from a physical aspect, but I focus that on the mental aspect of feeling better, and wanting to engage more and communicate, and not feeling depressed, and wanting to be tired and aloof, and just kind of talking to them through that, and just saying, and the first thing I always tell them is, hey, just go. It's free to go and get your levels checked. Just go and get it checked. That's the first step, is just getting in there, and then letting them kind of laying it all out, looking at all your blood work, and then kind of saying, hey, look at all these areas you're deficient in, and then you can make a decision from there. And then 9 out of 10 will go on TRT after that, after seeing where all the deficiencies and stuff that they have, and where they've been lacking. Because I think a lot of them, they just don't realize it. You talk to some people, they haven't gotten blood work checked in years.
Yeah.
I was just in, graduated from the police staff and command school, and they talked about a lot of, police, as they go through their career, not getting checkups and stuff like that. Or one of the big things they always talk more, test on your heart, just to see if you have any blockage and stuff like that. Because there's a lot of guys that have finally gone in to do that, and they got 90% blockage, and didn't even realize that they were close to having a heart attack. But kind of staying on top of all those things is so important. And your blood work and the testosterone falls right in there with everything. So it's key.
Yeah. And with fatherhood, I think you owe it to your kids. You owe it, well, you owe it to your wife, you owe it to your kids. Forget the physical. The physical will come. If you're doing this for the
Yep,
physical attributes of it, chances are it's not going to do what you want it to do for you. Um,
absolutely.
Obviously the physical is the good part, because nobody wants to be a tubby wubby looking in the mirror naked, because that nobody wants to see that, not even you. But to the flip side of that, if you're depressed, on weekends, you just want to sit in bed and you're tired and you drink all the time, and so you go to work, you come home, you have a six pack, you go to work, you come home, you have a six pack, you haven't moved forward. And alcohol is a killer of hormones. It destroys
Hmm.
your hormones. So getting motivated again, I think for me was the best thing for, through testosterone. I have so much more motivation now. I guess I'm 47, so I'm quite a ways away from 25 again, but
Yeah.
I don't remember feeling this good when I was 25. And I could
No,
have, but because I'm
yeah,
so much older and I look at it from a different lens.
hmm and
So
I had my son at my first kid at 46, and that's the key. I think about that every day is longevity for him, and being there for him, and leaving a legacy for him. And I want to be around for him to see everything, and I plan to do that. But part of that, I owe it to myself to take, and to him to take care of myself and ensure that that happens.
yeah,
And I'm tackling it from every angle. So I owe that to him
yeah.
as a
You
father.
know, that's the funny thing is, like, I owe it to my boys to be present. I owe it to my boys to be active. I owe it to my boys to be a leader. You can't be a leader if you're sitting there watching TV and eating bonbons all day. It's just not a thing. You can't do that. If you want to teach your children to be savages and to be animals, you have to be able to get up and go to the gym and show them how to do that. You got to show them, you have to show them discipline. You have to show them, it's cool to get up in the morning and, make your bed. It's cool to, before 9 a.m., you've got 4 wins in the book and you haven't even really started the day. So the mental clarity and the ability to just be motivated to get up and go after the day is the main thing for me. Because I had a slump where I just didn't want to do crap, man. Chris, when I tell you I
Yeah.
didn't want to do shit, I would get up, I would come downstairs, I would go into the living room and I watch TV until I got tired of watching TV. And I get up and I go back upstairs and I'd go watch some more TV. It was a pathetic excuse of a life. Luckily, I have a super strong willed wife and a super, strong headed wife that was like, that shit's not going to work anymore. So I had to change some things, but luckily I have that strong wife. So
Yeah, and I talk to people all the time that are going through there, and I think we've all been hit that rut at one point. I know before I went on TRT, I was kind of there, and then when you're in there, it's a vicious cycle, because then when you're kind of sitting
yeah,
around, you're eating, you're stress eating, or you're
dude, I
depressed. So
was drinking.
yeah,
I was drinking anywhere between a half and a case of soda, Coca-Cola a day.
wow. Yeah, that's not
That
good.
is ridiculous, dude. And I could not gain a
Good.
pound. Could not gain a pound.
And like I said, it's a vicious cycle, and you're looking for anything, that quick fix to make you feel good. So hey, I'm going to
Yeah.
eat this, McDonald's, or I'm going to eat fast food, or whatever, and and then the next day you're back to doing the same thing again. And I see it now at work with these guys, and that's when I try to kind of talk them through the process, not only as a leader from a work aspect, but just in their personal life. And I think that's where wellness and law enforcement needs to be key now into the forefront. And I'm so glad to see so many departments making that a priority, because it's that work and home life balance. And when you have that balance, you're going to perform better overall at everything. But there's guys that are going through divorces, and then the worst thing is when you have stress at work, and then you're stressed at work, and then you go home and you're having issues with your spouse, and then you're dealing with that, and and then you're depressed, and it just goes down a bad path, right? And sometimes it takes some friends to help you kind of get out of that and lead you down the right way to go. So I always try to talk to people and give them advice. I don't tell them what to do, but I kind of just say, hey, this is what's worked for me, and these are some of the avenues that I've gone down. But like I've said a couple times already, I think some guys are just like, this is the way it is, and I've accepted it, and unfortunately they're heading for a short lifespan, because nothing good's going to come from that.
Yeah, and they are. And since you're in the law enforcement space, I have a buddy. His name is Anthony. He has a company called Heroic Industries, and I've been waiting for so long for him to launch his fitness thing. Well, he finally has it launched. So you guys can check him out on Instagram at Heroic Industries. And his new site is called my.playbookapp.io. I'll put it in the chat, but it is an awesome program, and it's designed by a law enforcement officer. It's designed for people that can't go to the gym every single day. He has all kinds of different programs. He has nutrition. He looks at things from a psychological standpoint instead of just I need this now. He looks at it psychologically and makes you look at it psychologically so that you can see where you're screwing up without him going, hey, you're screwing up. So it's really awesome. I'm so excited. I signed up today because any bit that I can help my friends and get them get their businesses going too, it's awesome. And we will actually probably have this on our website at some point as well. And
that's awesome.
If you go to his Heroic Industries in the My Playbook, he actually has a link for Human Performance as well. So it's awesome.
No, I'm gonna check it out myself. So
yeah, he's working with one of my buddies right now, who started out on the higher end of the scale, and after the first month he's down 28 pounds. He wanted to be under 400 by I think December, and he is at 418. So wow. I am so proud of him. I'm so happy for him.
That's awesome.
And it shows you perseverance. He pushed through all the things that were hard. And, when you get that big and it's a cycle, like you said, it's just a vicious cycle you can't get out of. And then you start feeling sorry for yourself. And then when you feel sorry for yourself, I'm going to go have something to eat because I feel sorry for myself.
Yeah.
But he realized it one day and he gave me a call and he's like, Phil, I need help. Like, got you, man. So we got him on the program. Anthony's been working with him as well. And it's great that we have a community where we can help each other and really help dial each other out with all the depression and all the stuff. So,
and that's why I think it's so key, talking about all of this stuff is that when other people hear it that are, going through similar stuff, it gives them hope, it gives them motivation, it kind of gives them, a possible path going forward. So, I think the more it's talked about is any time that, you're able to do that is a good thing, because there's a lot of people that are just trying to find something, right, and trying to figure out what they need to do and don't know where to start.
Just like Wyatt says, definitely not a complete cure, but it has greatly helped me with depression. And he's 1,000% correct, because I have spoken to Wyatt several times. I actually spoke to him today. And I everybody that I speak to and everybody that I talk to about the program, when they call, I try to let them know, listen, this is not a cure-all. You're not going to take that first injection of testosterone and the next day feel like Superman. it takes anywhere between 4 and 8 to 12 weeks for this stuff to really absorb into your body. Depends on your body's absorption rate and all that good stuff. But it's a tool like anything else. And just like I try to tell people, it's like a gun. A gun's a tool. It's not something that is the primary thing. It's hopefully the last line of defense that you have to pull. You have several other things you can do as a police officer or as a military member before you get to that point. But I want everybody to understand that these tools are here for you to use them. If you use them properly, they will help you. You can get better sleep. Your depression will go away. And most people don't realize that their depression is coming from the lack of sleep. It's mind-boggling to me that so many people's depression is literally coming from not sleeping enough. And you hear these guys, I'm sure you hear it. Oh, I can sleep for 2 hours and be good. No, you can't. And no, you're not.
No, and I tell you, case in point, I had off today for Veterans Day, and I went and worked out, and I got I think I got about 9 hours of sleep last night, which was great. Had a 9:30 workout and was killing it. And even my coaches were in there, were like, wow, something different about you today. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't have to get up at 3:30 in the morning, and I got sleep, and I see it in my performance with the training or when stuff that I do is when I go to the gym, or if I'm boxing or Muay Thai or whatever, that the difference when you get a good night's sleep compared to going on 4.5, 5 hours of sleep, which some nights I have to just because of other factors, but it makes a big difference, and it's everything. And I think you hit the nail on the head. It's not a magic pill. You gotta put some work into it. And I think that's people think they can just go on it and then just eat whatever they want, and it's just gonna change their life, and that's not the way it works. And also just staying on top of your blood work and seeing where you feel good at with your levels. And that was key for me. Like for some people, I'm at like 1100, but they may not feel great at that. It may be too high for them. So that's where you got to figure out where you need to be dialed in at, and monitoring that blood work and kind of staying on top of everything.
That's exactly right. It's so funny because I talked to several guys that are thinking about coming over from another program. They're coming over from another program, and they explained to me how their other program worked. And they're like, I'm like, do you have any recent labs? And they're like, well, what's recent? I said, within 6 months. Oh no, they haven't run my labs for 2 years. By law, they have to do it every 6 months.
Yep.
So the fact that they're not doing it at all, it's like, that's a problem. Some of our guys do slip through, but for the most part, we kind of know when everybody's labs are, or they'll tell us, hey, we need some labs. Cause it's just one less thing we have to track too. But we try to stay on top of it the best we can. But me personally, I do my labs every 3 months. My wife does her labs every 3 months. You don't have to do it that often. I recommend doing it that often the first 2 times, just because you can get it dialed in better, faster. For me,
that's key.
But I also let guys know, I'm like, listen, we're not trying to beat you up with money. I also find out, I found out over doing this for a while, a lot of these other companies are charging guys like $600 or more, between $300 and $600 or more for lab work. That costs $132.
That's crazy.
Human Performance does not make a penny off of the labs. Whatever you pay for the labs that come through us, literally is to pay the lab and the phlebotomist. That's it. Whatever, we give you a breakdown of what, okay, it's $22 for your testosterone. It's $8 for your estradiol. It's, $3 for your vitamin D, whatever it is, you get an exact breakdown of what it is. So you understand what you're paying for. These other companies that are charging $600, $700, $800, think about that. If you have 1,000 clients and you're charging them $600, let's just average it. You're making $500 per client every 3 months. They're making a killing just from the lab work. So that's why a lot of these companies are like, oh yeah, we give testosterone for $26 a month. because they're making $100,000 every 3-4 months. So it's like, it is ridiculous to me. So
Yeah.
We try to streamline things and make it easier and cheaper for our guys. And if you have let's say you go to the VA or you go to your family practice doctor or whatever, and they'll give you the blood work, they'll do the blood work for you. We'll send you what we need. You can go get it done for free. And I recommend everybody go get it done for free. We had a guy had been with us for quite a while. He emailed us in and was like, "Hey, my family practice doctor is now willing to help me, so I can get it done for free through insurance." I was like, "Awesome, man, go." Because I'm not trying to make everybody pay for it because you have to. No, if you can get it cheaper for your family, do it. So
yeah, and
a lot of companies won't.
Talking about PCPs, it's a lot of them still. I think it's gotten better over the since I've been on it over the last 7 years. But I know initially, trying to talk to them about being on TRT and them, fully understanding and grasping it, and not, referring back to the, research of how bad it is online and everything. I think it's come a long way, over the last, several years. But I know initially there was still a lot of doctors out there that just aren't, primary care practitioners that just aren't educated on it enough.
Well, it's just like primary care practitioners that want to give you or me or anybody else nutrition advice.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them have one 12-hour nutrition class in their entire career. You're not an expert in nutrition. Why would you be telling anybody about nutrition? If you want to make sure people are healthy, you would probably say, maybe you should get a hold of a nutritionist, or here's the number to a nutritionist that we trust and that we use. No, they'll give you some generic bullshit with that food triangle pyramid. And if you follow that, you'll have type 2 diabetes in about 6 to 8 months. If you want diabetes, follow that thing to a T, and I guarantee you'll get it. That's ridiculous. Because have you seen that thing? It's like all complex carbohydrates.
Yep. Oh yeah. I don't know where they came up with that, but yeah, I don't.
Kellogg's.
I stay away from it.
Because Kellogg's is healthier than steak.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Cereal is healthier than steak. It mind-boggling to me that people believe that shit. And the doctor told me, maybe get a new doctor. It's just that's the problem. Is I remember when I was younger, cops and doctors were like the pinnacle. You trust them. You need something, you go talk to a cop. You need help, you go talk to a doctor. And it seemed like back, then they had pride in what they did. And I'm not trying to shit on cops, but I've spent I went to a couple events this year with cops, and a lot of them are out of shape. The last event I went to, there was only a couple, but that was like the SWAT challenge, SWAT roundup. So those dudes are studs. So, but you still had like their command show up, and their command was like 500 pounds in a uniform. Their stomach is almost touching your knees. I'm like, how is that even a thing that you can put that uniform on with pride, knowing that you look like that? And then you're trying to tell these young guys that are studs that they need to get in shape. They need to stay in shape. They need to go to the gym. They need to go shoot. But you look like that.
Exactly. And I think a lot of the officers, they come in shape, and then they just they get promoted up, and they just start letting themselves go. And, but that doesn't set the tone right for the officers coming in, because then they look at them and they're like, all right, well, why am I going to listen to you? Because look at you. So, and you see that a lot, unfortunately.
How do we change that culture? Because it's a culture thing, right? And I can understand it a little bit, because that cycle of days and nights and days and nights, and you're on for 7 days and you're off for one. Well, on that one day, you're not going to go to the gym. You're going to sleep. So how does that culture get changed in the law enforcement? Do we need to figure out a way to maybe get human performance into more law enforcement agencies? Do we need to figure out a way to get these guys their levels checked? How do we get the motivation? Because when is the motivation lost from this young stud that comes in to this really good shape, dude that's been in for about 5 to 8 years, to this just duffel bag towards the end?
And I think you got to start ingraining that in early, and that's where like a lot of the police wellness and stuff come in, is not only talking about stuff from a mental health, but physical fitness, and ingraining that in them, and then having a good work-life balance. Because let's be honest, a lot of these people and start letting themselves go when their work and home life balance start falling off, right? They start getting lack of sleep, waking, they get depressed, they go through, police have high divorce rates, they go through divorces, and that causes depression, and it's a vicious cycle. So it's having that work-life balance and that wellness, and then having outlets, right? Because then a lot of people don't want to go to doctors. So the the wellness, there's peer support, talk about TRT, or hey, you may want to get your levels checked, you're creeping up to that late 30s, and getting that stuff checked. But I think instilling those programs, and then ingraining that in early, and even incorporating stuff like finances in now too, and about how to save money, because it all kind of correlates, and it all factors into the mental health. And when things go awry, that's when you just stop kind of taking care of yourself. You kind of become a hermit, and you stop working out, and you stop talking to people, and that's when all the health issues start creeping in. And then before you know it, you've gained 40 pounds, and then you think it's just a lost cause, and you just kind of the way it is, and then that affects the entire culture. When you lead from the top, you kind of have to set. I know, even if I'm having a shitty day, that I set the tone for people's day. So if I don't come in and say good morning to them, they'll be like, hey, Chris, what's up with him? He's pissed off at me. So coming in and just, what my mentor said to me early on is having that imaginary trash can and leaving those problems at home. And when you're coming in, especially when you're leading from the front, you got to have a mind and set the tone for other people. So I try come into work that I'm setting the tone for others, and being that leader. And a lot of leadership is servitude leadership. When you get up to that higher level, is making sure that everybody has what they need to be successful. And I think also tackling that from not only the police training and law enforcement training and the tactical training, police wellness standpoint, that's critical.
Yeah, I agree. And I as you said, with like, teaching guys how to save money, how to balance checkbooks, or do whatever it is that they need to do. That's something that, I think the military and law enforcement communities really need to dig in and start trying to do. Because our kids are damn sure not learning it in school. So, when they get to, they move out at 18, they go to the military, whatever, they get to their first duty station. The first thing they want to do is buy that Mustang, buy that Charger, buy that Challenger. Because now mommy and daddy can't tell them no. Yeah. And it screws a lot of people up. You know what I mean? Their credit gets jacked up right off the bat. Commands getting called. You're up at the commander's office getting your ass ripped, and you need to sell that car tomorrow. So that all. But you're right. If your testosterone levels or your hormone levels are jacked up or low, and then you're having all these outside problems, the old lady that you picked up in the strip club that you married, and by some surprise that's not working out. So that's a stressor. And, she's spending all your money, or you're spending all your money. You bought this expensive ass car. You live in a house that's way too much for what you can afford. So all these things compile, and now you're a mess because you're not sleeping, you're not eating, you're going to get called up to command, you're going to get chewed out as soon as you get to work every other day. You probably just bounced a check, or there's a payment that's going to get missed, or something's going to happen. So we need, I think one of the main things we need to do as men is start pulling these young men aside and be like, listen, this is how it goes. I was just talking to a young man the other day. His TikTok handle is King D White. So King DEEWIGHT. He is putting videos out of how to dress for like success. So he goes through that Steve Harvey video where he talks about you need 5 suits, this many shirts, and you'll have 75 outfits, right? We need more things like that for young men. We need to teach our young men, hey, when you're starting to get tired, or in the middle of the day, you just want to sit down and take a nap, and you really haven't exerted yourself too much. And all these things that we have noticed, instead of gatekeeping it and being like, oh, we're going to find out that shit, it's going to suck. Instead of doing that, when we start recognizing those things as men and as leaders and as fathers, we should be stepping in and being like, hey, come have a conversation with me. Let me let you know some stuff. And, they can, if you just give them the information, how they receive it, that's completely up to them. They might be receptive, they might not be, but you gave their information that you have that helped you. So hopefully they are receptive to it.
Yeah, and I always say, being upfront and honest. I think honesty saves people's career. It saves people's lives, and you got to be, as a leader, you got to be willing to have those awkward conversations and be upfront and quite honestly hurt somebody's feelings a little bit. It may sting, but if they know you're coming from a good place, they're not going to get any better if you're blowing smoke up their ass. So I think sometimes we're not as upfront and honest with people as we need to be, because we avoid awkward conversations, and I think we need to, as men, help out our other brothers, and because I always tell people the key to success, as I say it all the time, if you focus on the success of others, your own success always takes care of itself. It always does, whether you want to or not. And the people that take shortcuts, they may get a couple rungs, but eventually they're going to teeter out. So helping somebody else, you're helping yourself, and some people need guidance. And going back to fatherhood, my father wasn't around, so I had to figure it out all on my own, making a lot of mistakes and stuff. So that's key to me with my son is being there for him and making sure that he has that steady presence in his life that I didn't have, because as men too, and not being presents for our kids, that shit, it affects them, because they take that into adulthood. So
yeah,
that you may think that it's not affecting them, but we know it does. And eventually they're going to feel that, and they're going to feel that lack of presence in their life. Us. And you don't get that. Yeah.
Yep. And that's one of the things is like, people don't think about that is, oh, it didn't affect me. It didn't bother me. Yeah. But you're still bitter about it, in your 50s. So it did bother you. It's now time to face 100%. that it bothered you, and just own it. Be like, yeah, it sucked. I love my dad because he's my dad, but I haven't talked to my dad in 12 years or longer.
Right.
It's just not a thing that I don't think we were meant to be friends, I love him because he's my dad, but it just is what it is. He was an iron worker, and things didn't work out how I would have wanted life to work out, but it worked out how it's supposed to work out. Had he been a different person, I might not be the person I am today. I might not be resilient. I might not be able to work through issues that I can work through. So I guess I can thank him for that. You know what I mean? But I damn sure am trying to change all that for my sons. I'm trying to be present. I'm trying to be actively there. I'm trying to be as open and honest as I can be, and just let them know that you're going to mess up a lot, and it's okay. But you
Yeah,
need to
and
fail
that's
first and fast. Just get it over with, fail, and move on.
and take ownership of it. And that's the big thing that I look for. If you make a mistake, is own it and then learn from it. It's the ones that, you know, deflect and make excuses, is you're not gonna be able to move forward. And I've made so many mistakes, but I've owned everything, and you know, I've learned from it. And again, that's resiliency. And I always see it. I would see it at work when I was K9. Is somebody would apply for the unit and get turned down. They may be a good candidate, but you know, someone just beat them out, and then they never come back and apply because they're just defeated after that, or they're pissed off. And you know, it's the guys that come back and get that sergeant promotion after trying 6 interviews, right? That's resiliency. That's overcoming adversity. That's somebody that wants something, and when you get it, it makes it even sweeter. But it's the ones that quit when they find when it gets hard. But that's where you're growing. And I mean, even look at working out. When it gets uncomfortable, that's when you know it's working. That's when you know it's growing, and that's life. And
When
you know,
it's
I'm
painful.
constantly, I'm constantly taking myself out of my comfort zone, and you know, is even where I'm at now, I'm still trying to grow as a person and a leader and as a man, you know, to be the best version of myself.
Yeah.
And I think, and again, you have to, health wise, you gotta tackle all that, and look at, you were talking about like making bad choices with finances, and when you get into that depression, you're looking for something to make you feel good, so you go out and buy that car that's not in your budget, or you buy that house because you just want to feel a certain way, and you may get a quick fix. But if you tackle that mental health, that aspect, and you're feeling good about yourself, you don't need all that stuff to make you happy. Nope. You have it right there, you know?
Yeah. Happiness, you know, it's funny. I've been to 7 countries, and one thing that I found in all of those countries that you don't really find in this country is the people that have nothing, that live in the middle of nowhere, they're happy as shit. I mean, obviously they don't know that cell phones are a thing. They don't know that people supposedly went on the moon. They don't know that, you know, and they don't necessarily believe it either. But at the same time, they couldn't give 2 shits less what's going on the other side of that mountain. They really couldn't. And there's something simplistically amazing about that they don't care because they are happy, and because they don't care, they are happy. So, I mean, it's kind of it's an amazing thing, but we need to get back to that type of mentality.
And I think that's, you know, going back to my dog Tambo, is I think that's what he's kind of shown people, is that, you know, I say all the time, he doesn't know he has cancer. He doesn't know that he has an aggressive cancer. He doesn't know that he was told he had 2 weeks to live. He's continuing to live and thrive. Like, he's just happy to go out on a car ride with me, or, you know, throw his Kong out in the yard. And those are the simple things that make him happy. And, you know, and I started documenting that. And then, you know, it was crazy, because then a lot of people that were going through cancer were reaching out to me and saying, hey, you know, my son, a child with cancer, was going through, you know, was giving up hope. And then he sees your post about Tambo, and he wants to continue to fight, and that's giving him hope. Or somebody that's saying their dad has, you know, stage 4, you know, pancreatic cancer, and just wants to give up, but he enjoys, you know, seeing how, you know, Tambo's living his life and the simplicity of it, and living in the present. And that was pretty powerful. So I think what you said just really is spot on, is just not sweating the small stuff, and kind of focusing on living in that present, man. And that's key. And we can learn so much from, you know, how dogs live their life, the simplicity of it. But I think it's us as humans that kind of fuck a lot of that up sometimes, you know, by overcomplicating things, especially in life, you know.
For sure, man. We can't get out of our own way half the damn time, and we mess up a lot of stuff.
Yep.
But
yep, absolutely.
How can people find you and Tambo?
So right now I'm mostly on Instagram, and that's lowercase k, the number 9 underscore Tambo. And like I said, I've been kind of documenting his whole journey. You can go on and follow that. You know, if you got any questions about dogs, or now if you want to talk about TRT or anything else, I'm pretty responsive on there. But you can kind of follow that journey. We got a big weekend coming up next weekend. We're going to be honored by the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday Night Football. They're going to be not only honoring Project K9 Hero, but mid-game they'll be honoring Tambo and I, not only for his his service to the country, but for his heroic cancer battle and basically defying the odds. So pretty excited about that. That's going to be kind of a full-scale moment for me, for a dog that essentially was told he was on his deathbed about 4 months ago.
So that's K9 underscore Tambo.
Yep, Tambo.
Putting that in the chat so anybody that wants to see this can check it out. I think that's an amazing thing that the Philadelphia Eagles are doing. Unfortunately, it's the Philadelphia Eagles and not the Kansas City Chiefs, because you don't live near me. So, Well, we're at 1 hour and 6 minutes, Chris. I want to, first of all, thank you. We shifted over to Chris this evening because we were going to have our sponsored mountain bike rider in slope style, Nikolai Rogactin. I probably screwed his last name up. It's all right. Nikolai, I'm sorry. But he is with a friend that got injured on a mountain in a practice or something like that. Busted his back up pretty bad, and he's in Utah. So we had to push the episode until next week. And Chris graciously stepped in to replace him. And I can't thank you enough for one, being responsive, being like, yeah, let's do it. And Chris and I had never met until today, which was, another thing, which is pretty awesome. So thank you, Justin, if you're watching. I can't thank you enough. It was amazing that you were able to step in, and you have such a great story for guys and young guys too that might want to get into dog handling, and hopefully Tambo can help other people as well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on, and it's great to kind of dive down the other avenue of TRT and how the benefits of it, and when you do it the right way, and it's done through a doctor, and the benefits that it's not only had on my life, but can have for other people. So I'm always willing to jump at the chance to take an opportunity to talk about that in general. So
awesome, man. Well, thank you all for coming in and stepping in and checking us out. I know it seems like there wasn't a ton of people, but we're a young and new podcast, and we'll get there eventually. I just want to share stories, and I want to, like you said, it's just storytelling and help people with certain things. And I think next week will be pretty good traction for us because of the peptide things. And I might have to give you a call and be like, hey, you want to hop on and do an episode with me? That could be kind of cool.
Yeah. Anytime, man. I'll jump on. Just give me a call.
Cool. All right, brother. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah. Thank you,
Good night,
bro.
everybody.